Hello everybody, and welcome back to episode 11 of the Enigmatica 6 single-player Let's Play series. As you've no doubt seen in the beginning of this entire episode, I've done a lot of quest hunting and achievement hunting, as well as gotten myself a new trinket, Creative Flight. So, along with, the glory shards for extra 20%, we now have Creative Flight, and the way I got that was this. If I look at the tooltips, I made the Magical Feathers item. Whoops. The Magical Feathers item requires a Nether Star, the Infused Diamonds, Magic Feather, which is not nearly as difficult as it looks, and then an Elytra and some Eyes of Ender. So overall, this wasn't terribly difficult. Once you make it, you right-click on it, and then you technically own that one, and you can select it here in the Trinkets, Lost Trinkets menu. So that's how I've got it. I don't plan on using it all that often, but it is useful at times, so that's the only reason why I even bothered with it. It's just because it's nice to kind of rearrange our arsenal a little bit and make flying a part of the day-to-day if we need it to be. So, what I wanted to get done today was actually pretty straightforward. So I want to get ore processing automated. So you'll notice that our barrel here is completely manual. Whatever we put in here, we put in there by hand. And I want that to be automatic. I don't want to think about it. And the reason for that is I want to get into automated mining, not necessarily quarrying, although we could, but more along the lines of maybe a digital miner. So to do that, we're going to need to get started with a couple of things. First of all, we're going to yoink this setup right here. We don't need it, but we can keep the entangled block, and we probably will. That'll make things very simple. So from here, if we take an exporter, which we can craft like so, and so, and let's grab a stack upgrade and a speed upgrade, or 3. That way we're not delaying anything here. And let's go ahead and actually make a handful more of these. Grab 7. Because we're also going to want the same thing for the other side. We'll go ahead and grab one more exporter. like so. And we'll just go ahead and grab some cable. Shouldn't need that much. And what we can do is we can come over here and tell the exporter to export into the top, which is already configured to do, with 1 stack upgrade and 3 speed upgrades. And we want you to export chunks. Now there are all kinds of chunks in the game, so hopefully I can get them all reasonably easily. Let's see, we do want exact mode on. You may want to go ahead and upgrade this exporter, and that may be the same case for the other exporter, so let's see about the upgrades. So what we made there was a base tier, but this is the advanced exporter from Extra Storage, and this guy has a couple of benefits. Mostly that it is faster, but it also has, as you can see, an extra row here for us to select what goes where. So if we look at the chunks here, we have copper, aluminum, silver, uranium, tin. There's going to be others that we will find, but you can see as soon as I select these, this is already kicking off. It's going. It's ready to do its thing. Ideally, we'd have an entirely separate setup here so that if I needed to use these machines, I could, and they wouldn't be occupied. But to be frank, I don't think that that's going to be all that big of a concern on my end. I'm not really sitting here dreading this, so I think we're going to be quite all right, to be fair. So yeah, this is automatically exporting everything from our system. Almost. There is one other location that I want to do automatic exporting, and I'm going to go ahead and do another entangling setup, which I already had an extra entangler from automating that guy for a few minutes. You're already just about done, so that's part of why I'm not too concerned here. And I want to automatically export the other kinds of chunks. So that is redstone, coal, lapis, diamond, and emerald. So these guys we're going to have to set up over here. So if we head back home, remember we have the Enigmatic Fortunizer. Now this will not be 100% automated because this tool can and will eventually break. So that is one thing you're just going to have to consider as sort of a shortcoming of this setup. But overall, it's a very minor shortcoming if you ask me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this here. I'm going to link the Fortunizer, and I want to verify, but I think this will accept inputs on most sides, sort of like any standard inventory. So if I hook you up to cabling and tell you to export these guys, yep, it's just going to get filled just like that. So now, as we want to go through and add more things, we can easily come back here and add more to the exporter, and that way we can cover our, totally cover all the resources that we can potentially grab, because that is, like I said, the only real concern I have is to just make sure that I can automatically process everything, and we're not going to have a backlog or a ton of stuff just kind of jamming up our system. So yeah, you'll see that this will not take too terribly long. This guy's not the fastest, but you know, it is what it is. It's better than our other options. And yeah, just like that, we are all good. We're already importing into our system anyway, so that's that. So that seemed like a pretty simple task, right? And that is, for the most part, a very straightforward thing for us to do. But now we have to do one of the more interesting bits, and that's to make a digital miner. So the digital miner is sort of a major thing in Mechanism. So as such, it is not an easy recipe. You can see we basically have nothing that we need here. If I grabbed one of these and... let's see, we're going to need these, and if I grabbed a diamond and enriched it and infused, and this will do what, two atomic alloy? That's not bad. Let's do another enriched just to get everything else knocked out, because I think that's most of it, right? And let's do another diamond or two. I just want to make sure we are all good and settled here. Doing the enriching version is definitely the cheaper and most recommended method of doing this, if you ask me at least. Okay, so the digital miner is going to require a robot. That's why I kind of started going to all these efforts to make sure that everything was satisfied, because I knew we were going to need a lot. So let's go ahead and bookmark this fella. We're going to need a personal chest, not too terribly difficult, and then we're going to need a refined obsidian ingot, so we're going to need another one of these, which is obsidian dust. And some enriched diamond. I think it's like that. I can't perfectly recall. We're going to find out. Okay. And then if we come over here, I've got the osmium compressor set up. And just like that, we should be good to make our robot. There we go. And let me see. I doubt that's a quest, but if it is, I'd like to grab that. Okay. Didn't think so. So now all that's left is for us to make 2 of these logistical sorters for pushing and managing items in our system if we were using mechanism alone. And we need 2 of these teleportation cores. This is where the recipe gets kind of gnarly. How many of those did I just make? Okay, just 2. Good. So the teleportation cores, and then we're going to need more atomic alloy now, right? Because we just used up our only ones. Let's grab alloy and enriched. And there we go. As much work as that seemed like it shouldn't, or is as little work as that may have seemed like it was, it definitely was substantial had we not already had a lot of stuff made in bulk. Like if you're trying to pinch everything down and do all your math exactly, it is kind of a pain to do. So just keep that in mind. So that gives us another quest. Let's go through and grab the refined storage quest. Some 1K parts, thanks, I guess. And grab a rare mechanism loot box. Not very helpful. Okay. So now we're going to need a couple of things. We're going to need an ender chest, which we already have one tuned to our system. We're going to need some of the ender gates, and we're going to need some mech speed and, well, just the overall speed and energy upgrades in general are usually very helpful. Let me grab some more iron. Actually, I would like that to be another stack, please. And then let's grab 2 stacks of redstone. And let's make some more of this. And I don't have a lot of sand, unfortunately. And I think I can make some by crushing gravel or sandstone. But I can also, like, enrich something, right? Maybe? I'll have to figure out a good way to make more. Because there definitely is a desire to do that. Okay, so if we wanted to make more of the speed upgrades, we'd need 4 osmium crushed and 8 gold crushed for the energy upgrades. You've already seen this. You probably have a great idea of what I'm going for here. And so, if we wanted to do these, and then gold dust, 8 of those. So now, that's pretty much it. That's basically all we need to get everything started. That does remind me, I like to bring along a waystone, and I've got a lot of these that I have basically not activated yet. So I'm going to come over here for now. I know this isn't very far, but it will continue to get further and further as we go. And I'm going to give it power. My upgrades. A waystone, and around the back here, item outputs. So now what I'm going to do is if I wanted to pick up every single ore, I will type in a tag, and that would be forge : ores, and that's going to trigger every single ore variant. Radius, I like to go as high as it allows me to. Usually that's 32. Minimum of 0, maximum of 100, and we just do world height 256. And now if I go back, I can also configure a couple of things like automatically ejecting, automatically pulling. If I wanted to replace the blocks with some other block, I could do auto pull from the top to fill in whatever blocks it breaks with whatever I feed it. And then Silk Touch mode, which I do want. It costs more energy and takes more time to do it this way, but this allows us to get the raw ores, which are very important if we wanted to use our Enigmatic Fortunizer like I had it configured. So now, I'm just going to click Start. And that's just going to get us stuff. We started right off with Diamond Chunk. We've got a couple of other chunks coming in. You can see it's got 9,000 things that it wants to mine. And I want to kill these phantoms. So like I said, we're not going to have 100% of our chunks configured. So why don't we kind of prepare for the worst and get that ready. So you'll see right off the bat we have coal and redstone that we're going to want to add. Fluorite I could care less about. Fluorite's frankly not something I ever plan on getting into. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you ever see something that makes you say, oh, well, why don't you have it? Then that's why. It's usually stuff that I don't plan on getting into. Fluorite I'm not going to throw away, but I'm definitely not going to try to fortunize it because it just produces so much when you fortune it. And it's just a very deeply convoluted part of Mechanism that I only barely plan on getting into just for the sake of the achievement. Mechanism can get really cool and really complex. It's just not my thing. I'm not a physicist, so having to figure out all the components kind of gets a little dizzying at times. So anyways, that's automatic mining for us. So yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So now we kind of only have to sometimes worry about certain things. You'll see this guy's basically always going to be running. Because we're always going to be getting stuff in. We have a new chunk that we have not yet taught, which is the osmium chunk. And you'll see, for the most part, this is going to kind of go back and forth, and it's okay if we have a bit of a buffer or a backlog. That's fine. It'll clear out soon enough. That's partly of what the speed upgrades were for as well, was to kind of help with that and improve that. So yeah, super cool stuff that we have set up already. Just gonna make sure we have, I don't think we have nickel configured either. We did not. And so yeah, that gets us through probably the biggest quest line component here in Mechanism. Now, there are a couple of other things that we could do just to sort of achievement hunt. I did go ahead and go through all these. You just had to click them to kind of understand the process here, which is what we're going to end up doing eventually. It just takes a lot of time to do. And this basically reflects all the stuff that you're going to need to do and how to place it as it relates to this step up here. So, looking at our kind of, simple baby branch over here that we have that's not nearly as complicated, we're going to need a couple of things. So we're gonna need, what, an enrichment chamber, a smelter, a purification chamber, okay, so that should be this, this, this. Oh, and there is also, here's what we're gonna do. There is a thing right here for the muffler, and I'm gonna go to recent sounds, for Mechanism. And I'm just going to call all these sounds, because I don't need to hear this. It's very loud. I mean, I could maybe turn it all down to 20%. I think 20% is perfectly reasonable. At least now we can hear each other as we sit here and converse. And so I want to kind of get an idea of what it thinks I should do. So we do have an extra electrolytic separator. Enrichment, we have the crusher still. That would be over here. right? So I kind of want to see how difficult it is to get into, what is this, ore tripling, and then quadrupling, and quintupling. Okay, yeah, I think this is pretty straightforward. So to do this, oh, okay. So let's grab a sink. And then let's grab some cables from Power. Let's grab an ender gate from Power. And let's grab some pipe. And from mechanism, there's also the pressurized tube. And let's play around with this. I want to just kind of get an idea for the order that it wants me to start with. So, with enough effort, however, between machines, laying it all out will be a task for you to discover. Okay, so that's exactly what they're trying to tell me then. Okay, so then, if I clear these out and look at this item right here, let's just bookmark this. So this is taking in an ore and some amount of oxygen. So that's what the electrolytic separator is for, right? So this will be an ore. And you want this in a purification chamber, okay? So the purification chamber here, you're gonna want, you can dump hydrogen and produce oxygen. And I want you to take oxygen, gases, and you can output that. If we come over here to gases, input, I think it goes something like this. That's my guess, right? So we'll do something like that. You are full on oxygen. I'll just do this with, oh, no, not that. A basic mechanical pipe for taking in fluids. So that's going to get us oxygen. That's going to fill the purification chamber with oxygen. I'm going to steal a piece of iron here and just make sure that I'm following along the lines here, because if this is working, then I may set this up for doing our ore processing. This could be very worthwhile. Okay, so once I take you and run you through this, that gets an iron clump. The iron clump can be crushed using the crushing factory. If we tell you input, output, and tell you to do that. Now that's going to get, I want to make sure, was it a quest? Yeah, okay, there we go. That's going to get dirty iron. Dirty iron needs to be enriched. So you are outputting, you are inputting, and then outputting, and then you are inputting and outputting. So yeah, that is how you would triplicate. That's not terrible. That's a good loot item. So we could set this up in a compact machine. I suppose that could be fun, right? Maybe we should do that. Let me think about anything else that we may want to kind of incorporate here. Because now that we've set up our power, we can kind of afford any amount of expense. Let's see what it is that it wants to do the 5th tier. If I made the gas upgrade? You say gas upgrade is the solution, right? Supposedly. Well, that may still be up to some thought. So the gas upgrade... Work through JEI. Yep, but that doesn't... This doesn't actually really tell me anything. So to get an iron crystal... We need to... Yeah, this is where it gets really complicated, unless... hydrogen chloride for chemical infuser of hydrogen and chlorine. Chlorine comes from sodium and brine. So this is going back to the thermal evaporation container and just taking water and evaporating it to a brine, if I remember correctly. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of a process, and I don't think we're going to do that just because it is truly a pain. But this does give me an idea of making this setup right here in another one of our little pocket dimensions. So let's go ahead and make as many of these things tiered installers. I also need to make a new crusher because I just kind of stole the one I had. So let's do a crusher. You're going to want a steel casing and 2 buckets of lava. And that gets a crusher. So now we can take our crushing factory here and return it to its rightful home. So, yeah, honestly, this setup isn't all that bad. Let's go ahead and get this kind of scooted over. I'll break all of these guys. And I think that's most of what we need. So we're going to need, what, 1, 2, 3... What can even be tiered, I guess, is the right question, isn't it? So if we take these guys, so I need another tier installer. And can we tier 2 these guys? Yeah. Okay, so that does that, and then we can do that, and that makes me feel a little better about our efficiency. We have our sink. We don't need this guy. We have our cabling. So now we just need 2 ender chests for our setup here. So I'm going to make these white, and well, I said white, but I'm actually going to make them gray. And what we can do is super simple. And also, actually, super duper opportune. I'm just gonna take you and break you. And what I can do from here is put that there and put that there, just so these guys still continue to receive power remotely, because that's just convenient. And I'm going to put an ender chest right there. And this is going to start filling up with a whole bunch of our little various chunks. Speaking of which, chunk, any new ones that I forgot to mark? Yep, there are a few, and I may, in fact, be able to get away with processing these other chunks in the same system. I'm curious. No, okay, it doesn't look like it. Anyways, that is that. We're not even going to need that, and we already have everything else dyed. So now let's go ahead and get some mechanism upgrades. We're going to need, what, 5 sets except for that. So let's grab... we're going to need 40 osmium crushed. And half a stack of gold crushed. Beautiful. And now we can do the mechanism upgrades. We'll need more glass. Okay. So this is where things get a little tricky. I need sand. Sand comes from crushing gravel. Gravel comes from crushing cobblestone. Okay. Okay, I think we can handle that much then. If we came over here to our crushing wheel, which is in fact still set up. Still doing good work. Let's go ahead and clean up our inventory a little bit. It is getting a slight bit messy. We don't need all this stuff either. Okay, I think we're done. Let's just go over here. Whoops, come on. There we go. Come back over here, and I'm just going to toss all this in here to smelt. Now, I believe I set up an importer, and we shouldn't need this anymore. So that's nice. It frees up a couple of resources. Anyways, let's go ahead and get the remainder of these guys crafted up. And then, so that's energy upgrades. Now we're going to need our osmium. Beautiful. Okay, so now let's grab our personal shrinking device. And I believe we should have an entire area already pretty well designated for us. Oh, and you know what? We will need a mechanism. I believe I have some elite logistical transporters for taking things out of our ender chest here. So I don't remember which one. I think this one. Yeah, this one's free. So what we're going to do is we're going to claim this chunk, and we are going to chunk load it as well. Perfect. Okay, so now we have to repeat the setup that we previously had, which shouldn't be very difficult. So what we're going to need is wiring for 5 machines. Well, yeah, we're going to need wiring for 5 machines, but it's kind of going to be an L shape, so it's going to be more like this, because one of them is our electrolytic separator. And of course, that's going to require both water and our... Come on, there we go. It's going to require both water and also the speed upgrades. This is going to show as empty, not to worry, because we can put that there. Now it's got energy, and I meant to... Okay, cool. So now we want to take this. If you'll recall, we started this off in the Purification Chamber. So if we grab our Purifying Factory here, it's going to fill up that oxygen buffer, and we want you to auto sort so that it divides. And we want you to input on the left and output on the right. We'll put our ender chest here, the elite logistical transporter here. You can see we have all of our clumps here ready for us, but not yet, because we now need to go into the Enrichment Chamber. The Enrichment Chamber should still be configured to input and extract, and then from there we go into the Crushing Factory, auto sort. Will tell you to input on the left, extract on the right, and then our final guy here, the Advanced Smelting Factory. All of these will need their respective upgrades. And I think that's actually it. So you're going to be a bit of a problem. You're not receiving enough power. Okay. Okay. So let's take our personal shrinking device out of here, and let's grab another ender cell, which I know we're not going to have enough of. So we're going to have to craft another one, no problem. Actually, let's do an ender gate, and we'll do one of these guys with an eye of ender, and at power, we're going to want another one of these. No, just do this recipe. And then take that combined to make the dielectric core. And now we do that. Now we'll do a 4-pack. Should we do this tier or this tier? Let's do the spirited tier. It does deserve it, because it's going to have to be like the backbone of our entire setup here. So we'll go here, and I need to start labeling these. Why are you jammed? Input, output? Oh, I skipped a step. So we go crushing. Then enriching, and both of these need to be set to auto split. And I'm going to give you your own dedicated power, and that should help. That seems to have made a very big difference here in keeping you as full as possible. The next step is to make more of these. But honestly, this is respectably fast. So you can see this is all going to be gathering up over here. The last step is we need to make another ender chest. And of course, we're going to do this with our colored wool for cyan. And that's going to just send all of our stuff right where it needs to go. So you are occupied with crushing. I guess this is a good opportunity to kind of give our system a quick break. So yeah, good enough, I guess. So now we are triplicating instead of duplicating our ore processing systems, and that is something that I've never done in Mechanism before. So I'm very excited about that, just because it is a considerable amount of increase in our throughput of items. You can see we're bringing in several at a time, usually 3 to 5 to 9 of these copper at a time. At this point, our copper supply has exceeded our iron supply, just because normally I have the opposite problem, but this time around we have produced so very much that it is no longer even a relevant issue. So that's exciting. That's cool stuff. So I'm very glad that I got that set up this episode, because it was a lot easier than I thought it was. It looks like the next step is a bit more difficult, not even close to nightmarish though. It just takes a little more setup than I really wanted to get into in this episode. Getting everything set up for the iron shards from our both a hydrogen chloride supply or just a constant salt supply. Either which way is kind of a bit of a difficulty here. Like salt, if you wanted to constantly create salt, you would have to either get the salt blocks constantly or go through gaseous brine. Either which way, you're going to end up making the thermal evaporation chamber. Either which way, which is a large construct and takes a little bit of time. So yeah, it truly will be kind of a difficulty, and then the quintupling part isn't even worth it. It is such a hassle to get done sometimes that it definitely seems like it's not as advantageous as it may sound. So yeah, let's go check on our miner. Looks like we still have 6,000 blocks to process. Sweet. And I think that makes it an episode. So thank you so much for joining on this lovely episode. And in the next one, we're going to take a break from technology. We have been all too deeply ingrained in it this entire season, as you can tell. So I want to break out and do some magic like I did in the beginning of this episode during my sort of quest adventure. So I would love to jump into occultism a little bit more, and maybe even get into Oh, what's the other mod? Eidolon. I want to get through Eidolon as well, because it is a very cool looking mod, and so I think it'd be fun to get into. So stay tuned for the next episode, and until then, have a good one.